Everybody, Jay and Manion here at the NPC Photo Gym, and I'm here with IFBB Fitness Pro,
Allison Kramer.
How are you?
I am great, and I'm super excited to be here standing with this wall. We drove in earlier today and just kind of had a nice day. At least it's not too cold outside right now.
Right. It is actually nicer than I anticipated. So we're how many days from the Arnold?
We are 16 days away from the Arnold.
I figured you'd have the minutes and everything.
It is creeping up quickly.
So how this interview came about was the last time we were at the Arnold, and I happened to stop at a Sheetz and went inside, and Allison was in there, and so that was what? So it was 2020, right?
2022. So it was last March, and we were driving back because we drove from central Pennsylvania to Ohio. So we were on the same route, and we walked in, and I was like, I know him.
Yeah. So I told her then that we needed to get her here to the gym, so she's here.
Yes, and it was super exciting, and I'm glad it all worked out.
Yeah, I literally didn't have your number. You know that, right?
Yeah, you texted Davey.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to get her here. It wasn't like it's like, I need to get her here.
Yeah, so it worked out really well because I was actually flying to Louisville for a work event, and he texted me. And then I was like, let me look at the calendar. I knew my husband wanted to come out and see the gym too. So I was like, okay, well, let's coordinate real quick what days work, just so that I could make sure that I tried to snag up a spot.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just working out good. Yeah. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too. And I know that he's super excited to be able to look around and to see everything. And it's really neat to see everything kind of get settled.
All right. So going into this prep, how's it going?
It's been long. Having it so close to the Olympia, it's like you don't really have any time to take your foot off the gas. I did a 20-week prep for the Olympia, so quite a while. Last year after the Arnold, I had done a carpal tunnel surgery and I had my meniscus resected. So I needed to start a little bit sooner just to get back in the swing of things. And then the Arnold, I think it's 11 weeks. So when it's all said and done, 31 weeks. That's a really long time. So I think physically you get in such a groove and you're in such a routine that it becomes almost mindless. So it's the mental side of things where I really feel like it kind of starts to take a toll, where you don't quite feel like yourself all the time, and you're a lot of negative self-talk. So for me, that's where I probably struggle a little bit more being in prep this long. So it's just being aware of those things and trying to do everything I can to combat that.
Well, coming back from the injury, how long did it take for you to get back to 100%?
100%. I would say 10 to 12 weeks after the surgery. I did my surgery, and I think it was it was on a Friday, and Monday I tried to go back to the gym. But it was more
typical competitor.
I wasn't trying to do anything heavy. I was just I just need to move because I could only sit around for so long. So I was doing any type of machine, that I didn't have to grip anything with. I was trying to do the arm bike until my knee, until I could actually do the seated bike. What was hardest was I'm right-handed, and it's right in the palm of your hand. And there's so many things that you don't think about, gripping things. So doing that really took the longest, being able to sit underneath a dumbbell and grip onto something versus just a machine. So
what about doing routines?
So there was no fitness, I wasn't doing any handstands or back handsprings. I want to say I had my surgery. It was first weekend in March. I don't think I was doing anything until July. So, and then it was just kind of try to get everything moving again, see where we're at, kind of start to get conditioned in that sense. And then it was okay, we got to do choreography. We got to get this routine together. So it was definitely a long road in front of me. Post-surgery, I had a lot of boxes to check off to make sure, but thankfully I had decided to move forward with the surgery because I was already qualified for the Olympia. So I didn't have to do anything if my recovery was going to take longer. And I knew between March and December that I was going to have enough time. So
the Olympia being pushed back was really to your favor.
Yes, in that sense, it was nice to have the extra time. I didn't have to push anything with my injury. It would have been nice to be before Thanksgiving because that's my favorite holiday. But in the grand scheme of things, it was probably better that I went a little slower.
Yeah, probably making it better for the long run.
Yeah, for the long run. I was, seeing my physical therapist quite a bit, and I still go usually once every few weeks just to get a little tune up and make sure I'm not ignoring anything. But especially with fitness. With fitness, it's hard. It's not, it's not just the diet. It is the routine, and it counts for so much of the score that ignoring those injuries, it was only going to get worse. The carpal tunnel, I had started to lose dexterity in my hand. So it was going numb quite a bit. And so I remember my husband was like, aren't you scared you're going to like fall? And I'm like, nah. Because, you get that muscle memory, but you do start to think like worst case scenario, like what if it happens during a routine on stage? My knee wasn't nearly as bad, it was just a little, they just went in to clean it up basically. I just decided to do them both at the same time so that I was like, well, I'm going to just recover. I might as well really recover and feel fresh. So I'm glad I did both, but it was a little harder. Yes, right hand and left knee. So I was a little crippled, but I had a nice nurse who brought me my snacks, and I like binged on some TV, and I was taking a class online. So I at least tried to stay pretty busy.
All right. So for people that don't know you, how did you get into the sport? How did you get into weight training?
So I cheered in college. I did gymnastics when I was a little bit younger. And then I was finishing college, and my husband, who was my trainer at the time, my boyfriend, and I wanted...
So did you fire him?
Well, eventually I did have to fire him. But he was into competing long before I was, and I was kind of looking for that challenge, that next avenue of what am I going to do next? So that first year, it was 2015, when I finished school and I started dieting. I had actually wanted to do bikini. It was super popular. I mean, it's still super popular, but it was still a little bit newer at the time. And I didn't know what my structure really looked like because I just knew I had weight to lose. So we started dieting down, and we were like, you're not meant for this category. I had more of that X frame. So we had decided to just hold off a year because we were moving. And so we moved to Texas, and I was going to do a figure show that year. And it was actually my husband who was like, I think you should really try fitness. Like, he had seen me do back handsprings, like the length of a basketball court. And he was like, you can do this. So it was our anniversary. And he actually reached out to Trish Warren because she's local in the DFW area. And he had arranged for her to meet with me, to work with me on my routine and stuff. And that was like his gift to me as like our anniversary present. Okay. So he's the one who created this monster. So I got into it. That year I did, a local fitness show so that I could qualify. Then I came out to North Americans, and that was my first like national show, but really my first show with other competitors. And I got second that year. So then I was like, oh, like, I think I'm kind of good at this. So that was 2016. And then I turned pro 2018. So we got married in 2017. And that's when I said, you're not my trainer anymore. We're married. Let's stay married and let's separate the two. And so I've been with Pro Physique since September of 2017.
So how did you wind up with them? Because of Whitney?
Yeah. So,
sorry, Damien. Not.
So I met them backstage at North Americans the first year that I was there, September of 2016, because most of the fitness girls there were some of her athletes. So we were all just kind of sitting there together. And then it wasn't until the next year after North Americans, I got second again at North Americans. And both the times they were girls that Whitney had coached. So I looked at my husband and I was like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So I reached out to Whitney and we started working together. And then I did the Arnold Amateur that year. And then I turned pro at Junior USA's.
So good. Good. So, and then how's everything been going in the Pro League?
Everything's been going pretty good. I turned pro in 2018. I did one show, 2019. I did not do that well. And it was just a learning lesson for me of, how big the Pro League is and, what I needed to do to improve. I needed to take some time off. I needed to put on a little bit more muscle. Then COVID happened and I didn't compete that year. So 2021, I really was like, okay, we're doing it. We're doing as many shows. And I really feel like I just started to find my footing a little bit. Just learning, what judges are looking for, both in the physique round and in the routine round. And then I finished 2021 and I got my Olympia qualification, and then my Arnold invite came for 2022. So last year it was just the Arnold and Olympia. So in the grand scheme of things, I think this This is going to be my 8th pro show, and the last 2 of them were the Arnold and the Olympia.
Not bad.
So in the grand scheme of things, it feels pretty quick. And I feel super blessed to be invited. I know that they don't get to pick that many athletes. So I just love the experience of those shows. You work, you put a lot of money and time into this sport, and, the Arnold and the Olympia are the 2 shows where you're kind of like, that's less of a burden because, they're helping with the travel and the arrangements and those things. So it does feel like, to a certain level in our sport, it's a different level of success that some athletes never get to reach. So I feel just happy to be there in the grand scheme of things.
So everything's holding up from the surgeries.
Yes, everything's been going good. Anytime now, like I mentioned, I still see my physical therapist. If I start to feel anything nagging, they're like, okay, well, let's, continue to do a few more of these exercises. And most of my weakness in my knees is caused from weak glutes. So really just trying to focus on those type of movements. And just be more aware ahead of time so that I'm not ignoring things and letting them, get too bad.
So for this year, do you have anything else planned after the Arnold, or are you just waiting to see what happens?
I will leave that to Damien. I try not to pick my shows too much. I want to have longevity in the sport. And I know that in the moment, a competitor's mind isn't always rational. It's very emotional. And so we haven't picked out anything yet. I think we want to get through the Arnold. We know I'm going to need a few weeks to, reverse some of my calories and take a little bit of mental time, that break. And then just kind of go from there and see it would either be, we would compete early in the season and then take that time off in between, since the Olympia would be in November, or kind of wait till the tail end of the season and, try to qualify. But the ultimate goal would be to make it back to the Olympia.
Yeah. Well, you could be doing that in 2.5 weeks.
You never know, but
listen, anybody can win on any day.
Yeah, it could always be anyone's day. I think I don't try to be pessimistic, but I do try to be realistic in the sense of managing my own expectations. There's a lot of really talented girls, and like I had mentioned, like I am just happy to be there. I want to do my best, and at the end of the day, I want to live in this sport knowing that I did my best. And as long as you're happy with doing your best, then you're never really going to lose.
Good. Now, one of the things about the fitness industry is everyone's always talking about how we need more fitness competitors. So what would you say to somebody that might be potentially thinking of getting into fitness?
Well, one, if you are looking at the pros at the Olympia, you don't have to be that big. It takes time, and you're not going to be you're not going to be where you want to be physically at your first show. And I think sometimes as new competitors, they can get discouraged because they're like, I'm never going to look like that. And that's what I thought too, but you have to start somewhere. And the physique part is 1/3. So it's not an overwhelming majority of your, score. So if you start, you're still going to be further along 3 years from now if you didn't start. And then as far as routine goes, like it would be very beneficial to find, someone to work with in the choreography sense, because you really don't have to have any specific background. It's very helpful if you have, cheer, dance, gymnastics, but you don't have to. And, a great example of that is Anna Chisholm. Like she had no cheer background, everything that she does on stage is self-taught.
I'll give you one more. Adela was never a cheerleader, and she won 8 Olympias.
Yeah. So it's not required to be successful. I think you have to be willing to do the work, and you're going to start. You're going to start somewhere, but you find your footing. I think it is just finding that coach and not being too overwhelmed and just focusing on improvement. Most of the time when you go to a local show, there might be 1 or 2 competitors. So it's not like you're gonna, not have anything to show for it at the end of the day. And then you just work your way up. I mean, just as like a new pro kind of comes in, and most new pros don't come in, hot and heavy and swinging. And, sometimes there are those girls that come in and they're placing in their pro debut, which, good for them. But more often than not, that's not the case.
Well, I say even if you go to a contest and there's only 1 or 2 competitors, it's getting on that stage to see how it feels to be there and be in front of a crowd of people too.
Yes, exactly. And I think getting on stage multiple times, I know that's even something like for myself, I still get nervous. I still get really nervous. And I have to not as much for this physique round, but for routine, I'm a nervous performer, but I also feel like I thrive under that like anxiousness. But that, and then once you get up there, you're going to get feedback. And then I know that sometimes with judges, if you're taking the feedback and you're making the improvements, you're fitting, you're going to fit more into that mold versus if you go too far in the other direction and then you're trying to like rein it back. Just get the feedback early, and know what they're looking for. I always email Sandy right after the shows. I send her my video, I send her my pictures, and I'm like, what can I do? How can I be better? Because that's the biggest goal for me, is always to be better each time I step on stage.
Well, that's good advice. So, and do you do any helping with like routines or anything like that?
I do not. My wheelhouse is that I don't have that creativeness. I know, Whitney is always working with people. Jacqueline Baker is always working with people. And it is a great creative skill set that they have. I am much more logical, type A. You tell me what to do and I will do it. In that sense. So I do think that having that creative type of mind is more beneficial.
Okay, well, that's good. You know your limits.
Yes. I think there's too many competitors out there that do one show and then, they're a trainer, they're an online coach. I am not that person. I know what's in my wheelhouse, and I work a full-time job in finance, and it can be a lot of hours and really time consuming. So when I go to the gym or, when I'm done with work, I want to focus on my training and I want to be able to enjoy it. I want to, go in, headphones off, and that's my time.
Well, good. Good to know. All right. Is there anybody else you want to give a shout out to while we're here?
Liquid Sun Rays for sponsoring my tan. And my husband, he drove me out here. We drove out this morning, and we pulled out of the driveway. I fell asleep, and then I woke up and I was in Pittsburgh.
It's crazy how that happens, right?
Yes. Whitney and Damien, all pro physiques. I am going to be going out there on Sunday, and I'm going to finish my prep in Arizona, kind of take away some of the stress of the day-to-day life. So that's super exciting. But it's been a good prep, and I'm ready for the stage. All right.
Well, we look forward to seeing you on stage in Columbus in basically 2.5 weeks.
Yes, it will be here before we know it.
All right. Well, J.M. Manion.
Allison Kramer.
Signing out for NPC News Online.